On today's Toy Spot, we are having a look at the DC Collectibles, DC Comics, the new 52 Lex Luthor Deluxe action figure. It is clearly a lot bigger than some of the other DC Collectibles, DC figures that we've had a look at. He falls under the Deluxe action figure size, and therefore, unfortunately, because he's a little bit bigger, the cost of Lex Luthor here will be a little bit more expensive than a standard DC figure. Lex Luthor comes packaged in essentially the same style of box as the other new 52 figures. Fully visible open window, which I like, so if you don't want to display Lex Luthor out of packaging, you can definitely display him still in the box. Full window is visible. You can just look at and admire the figure that way. Of course, I would have to open this up. I would want to appreciate this guy out on display, so that's of course exactly what we're going to do. But it still has that same white style of box. Turn around the side of the box, the figure includes a removable helmet and stands approximately 8.5 inches high. He's based on designs by Tony Daniel and sculpted by Joe Mena. And we spin around the other back side here. Other figures available are the Superheroes vs. Supervillains, a pack that Spot's already had a look at, the Aquaman, Flash, Batman, Catwoman, the Joker, Captain Cold, and Black Manta. And all of these figures, if you remember, were already figures that were released before. The only exception to the rule was a variant repaint of Skinned Joker, and of course, Catwoman was the figure that was exclusive to the set. From the DC Comics, the new 52, comes Justice League's newest member, Lex Luthor. Suited up in his latest armor with removable helmet, Luthor is ready to do battle in the world after the events of Forever Evil. Collect them all. That being said, Spot is super excited to get this guy out of packaging. When we come back, we're getting a better look at the DC Comics new 52 Lex Luthor. There's more anyway, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. When you get Lex Luthor out of packaging, there's some assembly required. There's only technically one piece that you have to add, and that is his backpack. The backpack it's hooked, if you guys can see. Little section on the top there is a little ledge, and it sits on top of the ledge that's sitting on top of, on the back of Luthor. So you have to take it, hinge it on first, hinge it over top of that section first, and then you have to peg it into his back. I like that at least it's not a permanent fixture, that if you don't want Luthor to have the wings, you can just leave it off. I might ultimately just leave it off, to be honest. And then he's got these extra hoses that clip, more so kind of peg into his arms. Not the most secure of fits, I have to be honest, but also when to be cautious when you're putting them in, the tubes aren't completely circular. They're more like a half circle, so that will dictate which way you want to peg them into his arm. Again, they sit in there, they just don't sit in there well. He only has really the one. The other one is attached to his torso. And there you have Luthor with his wings. I keep wanting to say Luthor. His wings are posable in the sense that they have their own hinges. They don't hinge much though. They hinge this way, they hinge backwards. I guess if you wanted to, you could try to hinge them down. This one doesn't hinge as I find as well as this one. This one moves a lot easier than this one here. But you could pose it in any numerous ways if you want to, give them. Again, I'm not crazy about the wings. I might just be more inclined to leave them off. I don't imagine Luthor in his suit flying most of the time. I kind of just imagine ground and pound, on the ground fighting the superheroes. But there you have that. He also comes with this little helmet thing, probably more suited for when he's flying. The helmet is rubbery, and you can take it. And it doesn't really clip. It just basically sits over top of Luthor's head. And you have something that looks like this. The only downside to me, and when I look at this figure, or initially when I wanted to pick up this figure, was because I've always been a fan of battle or suited Luthor, in that green iconic suit that he's worn. It's changed over the course of comics and years, that it's a little more robotic now. Back in the day, it looked more like a jumpsuit. But I've always loved this design. I don't know if I would necessarily display him with the mask for that reason, the helmet, nor, again, why I would display him with the wings. I would probably just be more inclined to leave them completely off. I think actually for the rest of this review, I'm going to untab the wing. I'm going to take the wing right off because I like this, but I kind of just feel like I like it more without it. I like also the paint on the helmet, especially in the eyes. It has a very spider look to it. Two larger eyes, and they progressively get smaller as it goes up the helmet. On the front, again, it does to me kind of have a more spider look to it. That's just what I think. It's got some dark green. It's got this lighter olive colored metallic green. Overall, it's a good solid helmet. The downside to this figure, and the one big problem that I have with this figure, if anybody can guess, anybody want to take a guess, is his face. I'm not crazy on his face. Let's have a look at his face. I don't know what it is. I don't like the face. I just don't. There's something about it I'm just not crazy about. I feel like maybe, I don't know if it's the coloring that they used for his face. It's almost got like a speckled, I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but it's got this kind of speckled treatment to it that, to be honest, it kind of looks like an infant's head. It looks like a little baby infant's head. It's not quite the imposing Luthor face that I would have expected from a piece like this. If not for this, the rest of it I really like. It's the good choice of green that they used. It's almost like a greenish pearl kind of. It's something that I would expect on jewelry, this kind of green color. And it carries over from his whole body. He's got a couple of scratches in his suit. And then the undersuit is this purple. And the purple, again, it's a more muted purple. It's not very bright. Same thing could be said for the green. It's not a very bright green. But I think all the colors gel together. They all kind of come together, and you get a good solid piece as a result. Some little accents, too, is he's got lighter green, almost a neon green, that covers areas in the gauntlets of his arms, some areas in the back of his the torso of his armor, and then areas around his belt area are this bright green, indicating that these are light up areas or areas that, are emitting some sort of power on setting. Again, really nice touch. But I think what I gravitate more the most to is, again, just these damaged pieces of his armor. He's got some scratches on the top of his torso. Looks like maybe there could be a bullet there, a bullet shell mark left there from maybe people shooting at him in his suit. Again, it's a great piece. The one problem I have, though, with it is his face. I just wish his face was a little bit different. I'd almost be inclined, if I don't ever see myself ever using the helmet, I'd almost be inclined to try to find a Luthor face that I could probably unpeg this. I think it's only on a ball joint. It seems like it's only on a ball joint. Unpeg this head and try to find a replaceable Luthor face. I would not go maybe to the extreme of a DC Direct, Super Friends Luthor. That's a little too kiddie. But I guaranteed I could probably find a replacement Luthor head that I could put in there instead. This is what almost kills the rest of it for me. If not for that, unless you want to do it this way, but to me that doesn't scream Lex Luthor. That almost screams to me almost like the Beetle from Spider-Man, and less Luthor. That's just me. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it without the helmet on. But if I'm also going to do it, something about that face I'm not crazy about. When it comes to his articulation, Luthor does have a good fair bit, being the fact that he is a larger piece and a deluxe class of figure. He does have, as we've already had a look at, the ball joint in the head. He has ball joint shoulders, ball hinge joint shoulders, as you can see there. It doesn't look like he swivels at all on the bicep. However, he does swivel and hinge at the elbow. He has a swivel point and hinge in the hands. This one hand I find obstructs. It's a little harder. You have to bend the hand and rotate it. If the hand is fully out, it does rub against the top of the gauntlets here, but it rotates as well. He has an upper torso ball joint, which rotates very easily. And, you could get even like that. That is awesome. If I could display the figure like this, maybe just pose his arm a little bit more like that. If I could display the figure like this, where maybe some of his face is concealed, even like this, now we're talking. Now we're talking, because at least then you won't see as much of his face, but you get the overall presence that this figure would bring. As for his legs are ball hinged as well. They rotate. He has a rotational point at the lower leg area. He has a hinge in the knee area, and then finally he has hinged feet. Feet are a little bit stiffer. There's the undersides of what the soles will look like. Feet are a little bit stiffer, but at the end of the day, they do their job quite nicely. It's a love-hate figure. Well, more love than hate. Truthfully, it is a great figure. It's something that's going to go very nicely with the other new 52 figures that I have. The downside, though, just again, not crazy on the face that they've given Luthor here. I could swap it out. I might do that, or what I discovered quickly as we were doing this review together, what I might ultimately just do is just kind of pose the figure like this, where, you know, again, his face isn't as predominantly featured, that from the side, it looks good. Front on, maybe not so much. A fantastic figure, though. If you can find this, and again, your best bet is probably your local comic book store. If you guys can find this, I definitely would say it's worth picking up. Maybe not necessarily with the wings, maybe not necessarily a helmet, but at the end of the day, a fantastic Luthor figure. Just, again, not crazy on the face. Today's Toy Spot, we're having a look at the new 52 Lex Luthor from DC Collectibles. Stay tuned, guys. Spot's going to have more Toy Spots heading your way. Thanks for watching, as you always do. I'll see you next time.